Hello and welcome back to The Dive presented by Honda. This is season 5, actually episode 3 this time. Thank you very much. We double checked. 4 teams remain in the inaugural Lock In Tournament, and so far it's shaping out mostly how we expected. Also, I love Mark.
It was in the script, so we had to read.
The
the power you have there, Mark.
I'm so desperate for the attention. I just have to put it in the script. I send in
the
DMs.
Validation.
Yeah, I'm always trying to find ways.
Yeah,
make burner accounts to gas myself up.
This is also Sellout Monday, as we all have the white LCS sweatshirts.
No one looked too closely at me and realized it's just a white hoodie because I don't have it.
But it looks like you do. Kobe's even got the hat going on. Kobe's full
He's
on
maximum chill.
Yeah.
I do like them. I want them. They look good.
Yeah, it's nice. It's pretty cozy too. I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised. All right, well, we got through the first round of the knockout stage from the Lock In Tournament this weekend. Got some BO3s in early. How are you guys feeling about the tournament so far? How it's going?
I'm gonna be the downer here, and I like them. It's not a complaint, but I'm also not on the hype train about them. People are like, wow, this is so different. And it's I guess only in the sense that there's less upsets. I don't think any of the matches were close this weekend and people got slammed. And maybe that's how it would have been if they were best of ones. But
TSM?
C9 TSM was closer. I'll give you that. But then C9 won, as predicted. So I guess in that sense, it's cool to see series adaptations, but it's also sometimes oh God, I got to watch 2 games of TL booty smack-a-racking people, and same with
I am actually on the hype train. I really do like best of 3 because it's not so long that we're stuck in a best of 5 in the scenario Mark is talking about.
Yeah,
where we have top team versus bottom team slapping them over and over. But we do get to see, some adaptation. And I do love seeing the changes in bans and strategies, or the team's willingness to run it back. In the Cloud9 TSM one, we had kind of micro changes to it where we even start out with basically the same champ select for the first 4 or 5 picks. And then you start to see the little changes coming through, stealing away Gragas and these little things like that. And I really like that. In addition to, best of series making me feel more hype as it rises, as if it gets to the game 3. Obviously, if it's, like Mark is talking about, and game 2 is just a bigger beatdown than game number 1 of the same team.
Or one of the teams is just trolling TL because they know they're going to win.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, overall for me, I've actually really enjoyed it too. One of the things that I like, even when some of the series are a bit more one-sided, is we're getting a better read, I think, on these teams for the start of the season. Kind of realizing it's okay, well, we've actually watched 7 games of perks already, right? In the previous format, we're playing two games a week.
Yeah,
that'd be week 4. Right. You'd have to wait a lot longer to kind of get more of a read on it. So I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed seeing these new rosters, new players come in and actually getting a good sample size. It feels like of games right off the bat. And to Kobe's point, I really like the adaptation as well. I do think that there is a happy medium because, my understanding and from how when you did it and when we did it, best of 3s, the viewership throughout the season isn't as good, right? People churn out of it. It's too many games. But I do like having some best of 3s right out the gate. And then obviously we'll have our regular season, and then we'll be into best of 5s. It does give another opportunity for people who do like the best of series to kind of get a taste of that. And it gets you a nice, showing right out the gate.
Yeah, I think too. Once you get into the semifinals, it's closer matchups, best of 5. I'll feel better about it. It was just my initial gut reaction to this weekend was not sick best of series. I was this is the reason that best of 3s died, and
honestly,
as a format for regular season, because
this is just the take I expected from Mark anyway.
Yeah, it's gut reaction. It's not
All right. Well, I personally really enjoyed Lock In thus far. I'm super excited, for the matchups going forward. But let's talk a little bit about some of the ones that we did have. TSM C9, that was kind of the closest one, I think, by far. It did feel like on paper it was going to be the closest one. And I was glad that TSM did put up more of a fight. But to me, this series was botcap. And I talked about it a little bit on the analyst desk. I tweeted about it. I just think that Sven Vulcan, FBI Huhi, and Core JJ Tactical are so much better than all the other 7 bot lanes in the league based on what we've seen in Lock-In, that it just feels like if you are one of those 7 teams versus one of those 3 bot lanes that I listed, you basically just lose. And there are some exceptions to that, and I hope that it doesn't remain true, going forward, because it'd be pretty straightforward predicting a lot of things. But they have been slamming, and it feels like such a disproportionate amount of games being carried by these bot lanes, where it's just like, well, Sven versus Lost, this does not feel close. Lost is dead at the start of every single fight and can't attack anyone, and Sven is just zooming around killing everybody.
Yeah, I mean that's what we talked about in the first dive episode when we were doing our power rankings, and now that we have more data points, to Mark's point, he's like, yes, now that we see it live, it is true. These top 3 bottom lanes are far superior. And it is going to be fun as we get further into the tournament, because now we get to see more of the matchups of them versus each other. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be the exciting point that Mark is looking for, because we did have, I think it was the Cloud9 versus 100 Thieves, or no, it was the TL versus 100 Thieves, where yes, they get the kills in lane, but then 100 Thieves had a good response, immediately calling closer and fighting them back on the next wave, so they couldn't reset and then dive them under tower. And so yes, there's still going to be these big outplays and big 2v2 kills, but it's not like the other side doesn't have a response after that, and that's what you want to see, is back and forth. Both teams making good moves in kind of counterplay. Yeah. Little note is that I was talking to some of the coaches the other day. The teams have all agreed to play the rest of the tournament on 11.2, the next patch, where Gale Force is nerfed by 30 seconds more. So those will be more delayed in the plays. Everybody agrees Gale Force needed a nerf. So I'm glad we'll get to see what it looks like with 30-second longer cooldown. I don't think that kills it or anything, because it was basically up every time you needed it previously. Yeah. And 30 seconds, it will bump that a little bit. We'll see how many times, somebody dies while looking like they're spamming it or something.
I feel like, to me, generally those kind of changes affect solo queue. It feels like a lot more than pro.
Yeah.
Because solo queue is more messy. There's random fights. There's more skirmishes and things. There was some games like that where it felt like the teams were just kind of having a bit of fun because they were winning, like you said, the TL game. So maybe in a game like that, it matters. But I feel like in most of the super serious pro games, there's not fights more than every minute 30 anyway. So I don't really see it changing things tremendously. Yeah. As far as the power of Gale Force does go in pro, and I know in pro it's bought such a disproportionate amount to the other mythics, it's not even close as far as Kraken Slayer and Shield Bow go. But maybe that'll change a little bit. Either way, I did find the TSM C9 series pretty exciting. There were mistakes, there were kind of errors on both sides, but overall it was really action packed, and fairly close. How are you guys feeling about TSM after having seen them in a best of 3 and having seen them in the beginning of Lock-In?
I probably feel a little worse on them than when we did our power ranking. I think all of us expected growing pains, and that's why the power rankings were an end of split 1. But I think that it was a little worse even than I expected, despite the fact that it's 5 new guys playing together. I expected them not to be super coordinated. I expected there to be mistakes. I think there were some more individual mistakes than I was expecting. I think Huni actually had a decent series after getting a lot of criticism through the first week. I thought he was a little bit better. There were still mistakes, but the Gragas game in game 1 was actually really good. I liked his build. He had a number of really nice ultimates, and I thought he was a big reason that they actually won that game, because C9 couldn't get through him, and he was able to disengage a couple fights or find key engages. So overall, I felt a little bit better about Huni after the best of 3 series than I did after the first week.
Yeah, I have real big concerns for Huni's champion pool.
That's true.
Because you start to feel a little bit better, but during those times, they're just chopping up their champ select in order to try and get him Gragas or something that he can be more even keel on. And even then, in some of the Gragas games, there were also some big bloopers. So those things I can see with this,
floor,
with this with this progression. I'm all right, they can get to a point where you feel okay about it, but it is already looking like it's hindering part of the champ select, which their champ select is already in a rough spot, it feels like. And the other big one is, of course, Lost on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah.
So, as expected, yes, like Mark's talking about, these are all new players coming together. So we do expect growing pains with them, and Sword Art is supposed to be this, big shot calling leader and give them direction. And for that, as a team, they did play aggressively, and that's what I liked to see in the Cloud9 series. We did see, I think, some of the focus for the team and decisiveness, but I'm definitely worried about both side lanes.
Yeah. For me, I think so much of their success is just going to be dictated by, can Lost and Sword Art get up to the point where they are competing with those kind of top 3 duos? Because otherwise, it just feels like it's impossible to get enough out of Sword Art to justify the investment, right? And it's like they are going to need. I mean, if you want to compete for the title, that bot lane has got to be great. Like, that's where they put all their money this offseason, was getting this incredible support. And if your incredible support who's supposed to, be one of the best in the world, is losing his lane every game, whether it's his fault or coordination fault or Lost isn't playing well enough, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, they just, as a duo, have to get to a point where I think they are winning lanes consistently. Or I just really don't see TSM getting to the point where they're going to be challenging for a title. So I think that's like a long road ahead. But Sword Art does have a history of being good at helping to train up some of these young AD carries like Huang Feng, right? So there is a bit of a proven track record there. And I'm going to be interested to see how quickly Lost can develop.
I don't know if Kobe wanted to hop in there. He seemed like he was excited on the TSM thing.
No, I mean, I was just going to put more of it as like separating the duo, because like I feel so confident in Sword Art actually.
He's great, yeah.
If you watch him in lane, yeah. And so I only wanted to like do a little bit of separation, because I do have confidence in his laning, as well as, even though it's super hard to, because we don't have access to the comms or anything. Obviously, from all his history and previous experience, I have confidence there as well. That was the only thing. Now
I'm not trying to say he's bad by any means, but at the end of the day, it's a duo lane, right? So you got to work well together. The other 3 teams that have been eliminated, we'll obviously talk about the teams moving on as we preview the semifinals. But Golden Guardians, Fly, Immortals, they all did not have close series. These were all 0-2s for those 3 teams. They're all knocked out. How are you feeling about these teams kind of moving towards spring?
I think Immortals is really hard to judge. It was an academy team. Like, I honestly have nothing to say other than, like, on week 1, Revenge looked okay and Insanity looked okay, but you're still not really with your roster at all. I don't even think their coaches are there.
They don't even have their full roster yet.
Yeah, so like that's a team I can't even talk about. I hope their bot lane does well once the OPL duo kind of shows up. FlyQuest, I'm cautiously a little optimistic on, but
be cautious.
But there's still like it's the same kind of thing with TSM, where that bot lane though, like, is that just need some synergy, or like we're gonna be a problem?
Yeah. And I mean, maybe it's stage fright, right? Because like, I was talking to Hi about this, and and have talked to a few other people, and my own expectations were just higher for Diamond. And we saw Johnson actually do well with Afro last split. They weren't the best bot lane in the league, but they were a strong bot lane. They were kind of the standout for their team when they were doing poorly, was Afro and Johnson. So I'm hopeful that these guys can improve. I'm hopeful that Diamond will show better games as he gets more confidence and gets used to playing on the stage and used to playing with Johnson. But in Lock-In overall, that bot lane was a big issue, way worse I think than Lost and Sword Art were doing. They were like consistently a problem, I felt like, for FlyQuest, and it just didn't feel like Diamond had the killer instinct that I had seen from him when he did play in Academy on a lot of the engaged supports. So I know they did try some different things. His Seraphine game, I think, went pretty well. The Janna game, I was less convinced by the Janna because I just didn't even feel like it really fit into the composition, because it felt like Janna and 4 divers, right? They had like Akali, Hecarim, Kaisa, and Nar, I want to say. I can't remember who the top lane was. Maybe it was some other diving champion top lane. and I was kind of just like, oh, what's the role of the Janna here? That seemed a little bit strange to me, unless like you're gonna try to fight it by having like the Kaisa and Janna peel back and the other three dive in. It feels like if you want to play Enchanter there, Lulu would make more sense with the Hecarim, kind of like buff up offensively and speed people in. But I will say Jose Diodo, I think, looks solid. And I think the fact that he like had just arrived and looks solid is a positive. And I have a lot of faith that Licorice can be really good. There was the one game against Alfari that kind of turned into a disaster, the Aurelia game. But he did get a 20 CS lead early on with his counter pick. He was playing the Aurelia into the Kennen, got 20 CS up, and then got a gank. They forced the flash with the ultimate, and he kind of just chased in the tower, took 2 tower shots, and then Talia came up and killed them both, and it was disaster from there. But I do think overall, Licorice, once he kind of finds his footing and gets more coordinated with the team, that should be looking good. Because there was also within that same series, I think it was the Gragas game where he's like body slam flashing in, and the rest of the team isn't there, isn't going forward. I don't know if that's like he called it, they didn't listen, he didn't call it, or what it was, but clearly comms have got to get better there too, where they're all on the same page. And he's played with Cloud9 for a long time and has a lot of super aggressive players that are maybe in the same mindset as what some of those engages would have been, but he's going to have to be able to adapt, or FlyQuest isn't going to do as well as we thought, because FlyQuest is one of the teams that, like, based on my initial expectation versus what I saw, they were much below that.
I mean, for me too, still a lot of my takes for the lock-in tournament, especially for these teams that have, been struggling with visa issues and getting people at last minute and still putting together all these pieces, is that 2 weeks ago, everyone was like, all right, this tournament is just, the beginning. We're so excited to get these first looks, but everybody be careful about overreacting. And now after teams are getting eliminated and stuff, and teams are getting smashed, and you're just like, what these teams suck, get them out of here, and bench this player, bench that player. And I'm like, what? He actually played like 2 scrims with his team so far.
But it's fun to overreact.
So I really want people to look at and take away from this tournament more like enjoyable insight, that we got to see a lot of intense play super early on, and it kind of feels like a peek behind the curtain on a lot of the starts for these teams. And I feel especially bad for obviously the Immortals teams, CLG teams that are having these extreme visa issues where they can't get most of the main players from their rosters here. And it does feel like we have a bit of a money line, top 5 and bottom 5 in the league, kind of like drawn up from the power rankings, that is starting to emerge here. And you're seeing as well some of the teams that had existing cores, perform a lot more coordinated play, which is definitely to be expected.
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out, is like, even EG had Jizuke Sven playing a little bit before. I know there's a lot of new players there, so I don't want to, undermine any.
Jizuke was in Academy for a lot of it too.
Yeah, but I mean, they at least played all of Spring Split last year together, and then they played a portion of Summer together, compared to totally new. And I don't want to undermine like how well they've coordinated. Obviously, that's probably taken effort and some bit of luck that everyone kind of gels. But like, C9, 3 returning players, their best 3 players. TL, 3 returning players. Okay, Alfari is like the study worked out, but their bot lane's still dominating. FBI, Huhi, Demonte as well, kind of similar story. So a lot of that's expected. Jose Diodo and Licorice and like the coordination issues like you talked about, like with the engages, that's stuff that I can easily see getting ironed out and then becoming a lot better. And Palafox I did like. I thought his Akali game was pretty good, given that the game was kind of on fire. He killed a 5-1 Samira. Like, those are the kinds of plays that you need to like kind of work back into it. Yeah, it was a 1v1. Yeah, you can get into should tactically even be taking that 1v1, whatever.
No, like, I thought it was impressive. I was just, you reminded me when you said that that we're probably not going to see more Akali, and it just made me sad because we are moving to, we're moving to patch 11.2 now. Akali gets a big nerf for energy consumption as she levels up her Q, and I was happy seeing Palafox on all these Akali games. And which does allow for isolated situations like that where, no matter what else is happening in the game, you can get these really fun outplays. And I really, Tactical was in a good spot on Samir to be able to fight that 1v1, and it was extremely close.
Yeah.
And those are things that are super hype no matter what stage the game is at, when you have 1v1s like that getting so close between two champions that have some interesting interactions.
It is really interesting because Akali in NA is like getting through pick ban, and it's kind of like you can have it if you want it, but
It
elsewhere,
started to a little bit more internationally too.
a little bit more, but it's 40 picks, 216 bans. So I wonder if globally you'll actually see more Akali, because sometimes it's one of those things. It's hard to know, right? It depends how big the nerf ends up being, because it can be one of those things where a permaban champion can get nerfed and then it actually gets played more because it's getting through ban. But if they overshoot and it's
pretty
too
big.
much, you think it's too big? You think it's just
20 energy is really big. At least talking to some of
especially
the
for
mid
wave
laners. Yeah, and I actually talked specifically to Palafox a lot too. So I definitely think it is going to significantly drop off. That doesn't mean it won't get played though. You're definitely right there. So maybe we do get just the real enthusiasts, the real Akali players.
That's the only people you want to see
fire.
playing it anyway, is the really good Akalis. All right, Golden Guardians, last team to get knocked out. I'm pretty happy with what I saw from Golden Guardians overall. I have very low expectations for this roster. Lots of brand new players, people from collegiate. Do they have a lot to work on? Yes, of course. We put them unanimously 10th. They were a team that for me was fun to watch, right? And I'm going to be excited to continue to watch their development, especially the collegiate players. I think that's just such a big shift coming out of collegiate and then having to lane against like Someday and people like that. There's no some days in collegiate play. Like there's no one even close to that. So I think it is such a difference for these guys, and I'm pleasantly surprised with what I've seen from them. I hope that they can continue to develop. And I'm pretty excited to see where they go.
Yeah, I think over the course of Lock-In, they showed that they can compete. If they get good draft picks and get some good early plays, they almost won a game versus TSM. Those are the kinds of things where over the course of the season, you hope you see them start learning to close those out cleanly. Against 100 Thieves, yeah, it was a tough series. You can nitpick decisions. Like we talked on the analyst desk a lot about Niall's build in that GP game, and like those are things that you're not happy about. But given the like you're saying, youth of the roster and stuff, that I don't know, it'll get better. I'm pretty sure it'll get better. One thing I noticed is Dig isn't on here. I know we kind of talked about CLG last week, but Dig did technically get eliminated on Friday. I don't know if you guys.
Oh, true, because they got knocked out before the
Lock In
actual
tournament, or like the
elimination phase.
Yeah,
sure. How are you feeling about Zig?
I kind of liked him. I don't know how you guys felt, but like that was another one of those teams where I was pretty pessimistic on, and overall felt better about. I think Fake God looked good. I thought Dardoch looked really good.
Dardoch was smurfing like Dardoch every game.
Yeah, I'm sad that Immortals Academy moved on over Dig, because I wanted to see a little bit more out of Dig, and just because the Academy play.
I know too. Some of the other teams were really surprised, and they're like, "Oh, so Dig's out, and Immortals is in, and they're with the Academy roster." Okay, like they were surprised too, like that Dig got knocked out, because I really liked the improvements from Fake God, and even Soligo. I know in some of the more recent games, he definitely struggled, and people kind of jump right back to blaming him a whole bunch. But he showed his improvements in the opening games as well, and I think those two solo laners, I'm happy that they get another chance to show what they've built on since last time, because a lot of times when you get your little tiny stints into the LCS and like you're just being subbed in and used as a filler for import slots or something like that, and then you have a couple bad performances, first impressions mean a lot to fans for these, and they're like, I remember that guy, he fed on Yasuo in my in the one game that they remember, or something like that, and that can kind of stick with you. So they put in a lot of work in Academy. They're getting another shot, like you're saying, Dardoch also playing well. So a lot of these bottom 5 teams, below my money line, are are actually having a lot of sparks and have a lot of stuff to look forward to, I think, especially since, again, this is with the lens of lock-in tournament. Starting so early and getting these early looks, I'm actually excited.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. I'm excited to see if Dara can keep it up, because I think he's had some of the best early games of any jungler in the tournament, pretty consistently.
I've heard
Strong
that
play
before.
from him. yeah, but this is actually quite a few games that we got to see from him. He was looking pretty good. Anyway, I'll take it. I'm pretty happy with it. All right, before we move on to the meta report, we just want to take a brief moment to appreciate some of our gracious fans who have left us reviews. Here's one from Glacier Freeze on Apple Podcasts. It says, "Great podcast. Love to hear the other side of the analyst desk. Keep it up. Thank you."
And here's one from Poco 9054. Started listening to the podcast a couple months ago, and it is great. All caps, by the way. It catches you up on the pro matches and is updated frequently. Thank you so much to Glacier Freeze and Poco. If you would like to send us a review, you can do so on Apple Podcasts. We love getting feedback from you, and your reviews actually help out the podcast a lot. So now on to the meta report. We already leaked a bunch of 11.2 changes, so we can review what we saw new already in the tournament. And then I do also like touching on next patch as well.
So, I mean, one thing that we have seen, I'm kind of curious to look at this in what have we seen that you don't think we should be seeing, and what have we not seen in NA that you want to see?
All right, some Drake style meme where we got the Gnar over here. No. Gragas though? Yeah. Gragas. Yeah.
You took the easy layup one of the Gnar. Oh God, I gotta say, PoE's Azir in Game 3. I kind of groaned when that was locked in. I felt like that was just such a comfort, safety. We'll scale and beat them. They're not that good.
Faker's been playing it, Mark. If it's good enough.
I know, but I don't know. Just like the game, like knockout game, kind of like just pick me Azir kind of thing. I didn't like it. I think that was one of the things that I don't want to see Azir back, even if it is okay, just on a personal viewing level. Like, I've watched years of Azir. I'm fine if he's not.
Shreema hater. I see.
I don't hate Sivir. Is Samira from?
Actually, yeah, I really like the Sivir. The Sivir game. Actually, now that you're bringing it up, Reckless usually gets to be the only Sivir player like for seasons on edge.
Yeah.
But immediately Sven's like, all right, I can do it too. Right when Cloud9 have all these dive pieces together as well, so it works with the comp. That was actually one of my pleasant surprises for the meta.
For me, one of the things that I have been noticing watching LEC is they are definitely doing like a lot more enchanter solo lanes. We got a little bit of it, but they're doing the Ivern. We've seen some like Lulu and stuff. Some karmas.
We had some fishy Lulu bans. That could have been moved to solo lanes, could have been support as well.
I feel like that stuff is pretty strong. I know that, that flowing water is getting a nerf on, I think it was 11.2, right? That is getting actually nerfed.
No, it's 11.3 for the next one.
Okay,
so
it's 11.3 that's going to get nerfed.
Out.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a little bit off. I still think then that we should be seeing more of the enchanter solo lanes. I actually think that they're pretty strong. I think that when I'm watching some of these games and I'm seeing Ivern just like go even in a mid lane against Orianna or whatever, I'm like, well, if you can get away with that, it seems pretty valuable. I think to have this, especially when we're talking about how strong bot lanes are right now. The only thing I will say is that sometimes I think people go a little bit too overboard. Given that Immortals was an academy team playing against an LCS squad, I think that what they did made sense. I think it was the Immortals game where they did the kind of like Lucian with multiple enchanters around him. But if you go too heavily in one direction, then you have no side lane pressure. You have no way to like answer teams that are splitting you, and that's kind of what 100 Thieves did. So I would like to see some, but I don't think teams need to go like absolutely overboard with it and have like Lulu and have Ivern and have, all this other stuff. So that's something I think is pretty strong. And I also think that we could see some more enchanters in the bot lane and double ranged lanes. I know Ignar was talking about how he thinks Seraphine fits in there. I think more players should be playing it, especially when MF is as strong as MF is. That combo seems incredibly strong. and being able to go, just like common MF alongside having a Seraphine in there with Spell Thieves against some of the like weaker laners like Kaisa. I think that you should be able to bully those kind of lanes, and that's something I kind of like to see a bit more. As far as stuff I wouldn't like to see as much, I feel like, I don't know. I'm not as hot on the Nidalee. I feel like Nidalee is
I'm a big Nid
like
fan.
Nidalee is working really well, I think, with Renekton because it gives you an easy in. But like Nidalee without Renekton feels pretty whatever to me. When I've watched it worldwide, it just feels like even if they're having an okay early game, it feels tough to actually convert. I just feel like that champion needs a really good setup to be successful. And if you have it, I think I like it a lot as a pairing. But I'd be interested to see some other AP junglers in there, like see some Elise and stuff, which
like Talia and Lilia.
well, Talia is
Yeah.
super broken, but like
Maybe some
I
Gragas.
definitely prefer some of the other AP junglers if you don't have the setup.
I'm with Mark. I really think Nidalee's so strong with her power clear, her mobility, and the flexibility of transitioning into team fight base now, because that was one of the things before where when you only had like damage heavy routes, then it would fall off a bit more later. But with Moonstone and Staff of Flowing Water being so strong too, you have a lot of healing that you can bring for dragon fights and stuff like that too. So a lot of options.
Yeah, I think that was the point I was going to make too. Is just I think better team fight build in a lot of ways. Udyr is starting to see some play. It's on the list, so I'm going to bring it up. I think it's pretty understandable. I feel like Udyr is always in this kind of state where like stat wise and clear speed wise, he's pretty fine. It's mostly about like, can he actually?
Clear is always good.
Yeah, his clear is always good. He's always like kind of annoying to kill unless he falls behind, which has happened, But like that's a lot of junglers who want to be frontliners. Is like if I fall behind, I turn to paper. So I don't know. He got an item that helps him run at people faster, and that's always his thing. It's just like, can you get on people? If the answer is no, you're doomed, and you're going to do nothing the whole game. And so that's always how he's been. And Chemtank just is like, well, it's a little bit easier to get on people and stuff.
So I think we're going to start seeing a lot of Udyr because the fact that we were seeing it before 11-2, it's 400 gold cheaper for the Turbo Chemtank, which I think is actually a pretty big deal for the jungle and for the kind of gameplay pattern that you're talking about, where if you can catch them, you're really good. If you can't, you're really bad. So I actually think that is a pretty big deal. I do think that, this full tank, kind of like Phoenix Udyr that we've been seeing, and I've been seeing it a fair bit in solo queue and stuff as well, seems pretty strong. It does offer a kind of different dynamic. Like you don't have any sort of powerful engage. So I do think you want to play it alongside someone that can do that. But if you have like the Leona, the Nautilus, or the Alistar or whatever, I think you can bring a lot to team fights later on. You're just so friggin' tanky. And being able to just like land bear stuns on multiple people, being able to have a fast clear, being able to solo dragons and solo Rift Heralds and stuff incredibly easily, does offer quite a lot.
I think one of the problems with the change, despite the cost in gold, is its loss of its mythic passive, or its change from tenacity to ability haste. I think not necessarily in pro games, but when you can get a couple of those items, you get Merc Treads, depending on your runes as well, maybe have unflinching and stuff, and like suddenly you're really hard to slow down once you get going. And I think losing a couple of those ability, some of that tenacity could hurt him. I'd be curious if it's okay with the gold reduction, but I would be a little scared about losing that much tenacity.
Yeah, I mean, so I have played semi-tank Udyr in pretty much every single meta, and these changes are very good to have. First, it started actually, the first change was obviously junglers not having to go jungle item, which is really, really big for Udyr, because you can either, for solo queue, go for your Sheen item, go for your damage carry, or now for pro play, Turbo Chemtank, basically rushing the old Righteous Glory, which was never an option for Udyr players before, shores up this big weakness that he always has of getting kited. It's kind of a give with one hand and take a bit with the other hand as far as the price reduction and losing tenacity, because the tenacity mythic passive was the best. Like that is insane. This is the stat that Udyr wants the most, because the only time you ever get frustrated with his champion is when you can't get to your opponents when you're getting CC'd, So they're really going to have to pick and choose what comps they use it in. Right now, sometimes it gets slapped down there, but it is so frustrating to play Udyr against things like Thresh. When you have boxes to worry about, flays to worry about, hooks coming at you when you're just running towards them to worry about. It's these types of things are what you're going to have to look at when you're looking at these Udyr picks, because it does provide lots of stand-up, 1v1 power, hard power clear. Turbo Chem Tank is the go-to. This thing makes the champion now. It being so cheap on 11.2 and live. He does really like ability haste as well to be able to switch forms, but the tenacity is the number one thing. So I expect Udyr players to start actually dropping phase rush so that they can actually go green and yellow tree and stack tenacity from resolve tree as well as precision tree and just get it that way. You can go aftershock if you want to be the front line, which is what I expect for pro play more. Solo queue might do more conqueror. But basically having green and yellow as both of yours, and so you can double up on those tenacity ones. That's what I expect. I do expect him to still be a tool, but you have to be careful about if you're looking at stuff where you're going to get kited hard. That is still the same champion, Turbo tank or not.
That's when you go Prowler's Claw.
Honestly, I did do one game of that in preseason. You're squishy AF and you instant die.
Viego, any guys played it yet? I got one game in. It seems like a cool champion. My understanding, so I don't actually know if this was the official thing. My understanding was it was kind of meant to be a jungler. I have seen it be a lot more successful in solo lanes. I played a solo lane game and I was thinking it had some potential. Like the kind of double hit passive after your spells does actually make like PTA and these kind of on hit builds like really, really strong, like with Blade of the Ruined King. It feels like the burst potential is actually quite high. The bonus attack speed and your little mini shroud thing, both for like clearing waves and pushing and attacking towers, but also like if you're playing it in top lane, you can just throw it against the wall and use that bonus move speed to just like run away from ganks and stuff. And like that can be pretty valuable as well. So I do think it has some potential, but only played one game, watched some people play it a bit. Seems pretty cool so far.
I think the abilities look cool. Like I like the W, like you're saying, with the shrouded around the walls. I'm excited to see what kind of creative stuff people can cook up with that. Same way like when Kiana came out and you saw like all the insane like I'm going to stay invisible forever tricks and like things that kind of came out. I'm wondering if there's any cool stuff there.
Well, it's camouflage, not invisibility.
Right.
So it's like Twitch.
Yeah. But either way, I just like seeing what people can do with creative things. And then the ultimate seems really cool about taking over a champion. I mean, PoE was tweeting about some of the cool interactions about like,
the Ornn upgrade.
Yeah, the Ornn upgrade. If you turn to Viego and you start killing people, you get just permanent AP, you get that kind of buff and stuff. I was wondering, like, if you get Kha'Zix and you level up and you can evolve something, like, could you actually, evolve your Q? Like, did that stay? Like, what happens then?
Yeah. You want to hear my experience with it last week before? Because I usually put off investing much time in learning new patches or new champions or anything for live before it gets to LCS, so that I can so I don't mix up what patch we're on for LCS. And so I'm playing a rank game and we're against Viego, and so I haven't read any of his abilities going in. Enemy Viego top lane, but at 2.5 minutes, I have a Camille top lane. I see Viego been slain by Camille. I'm like, great. I'm not going to have to worry about him. I go right back up there at a minute later after he teleports back at 3.5 minutes.
Kill him again.
Viego has been slain by Camille again. And I'm like, sweet. This is not going to be a problem. And then still, we fast forward 25 minutes later into the game. He's popping up. He's getting kills and resetting into our champions. And everybody's like panicking when stuff happens, because he is still so new, and he still was annoying. Like we definitely smashed the game, so we had super fed Camille, able to roam around. But the camouflage tricks that Mark is talking about are definitely possible because it travels a really long way
Goes the
around
whole wall
terrain
pretty much, right?
multiple times.
Yep.
I swear to God, this Alistar I had on my team would just we would win a fight. He'd be low health and then like walk back a little bit and start recalling, even though there's like an edge of the black mist near one of these walls, and we're like, we won the fight. Only Viego's alive, and like he assumes we like chased him off this way, like by the dragon, which is really far away. But then all of a sudden we hear like, oh shit, he got killed by him again. Now we got to go kill this Alistar Viego guy. that's got stunts and stuff. And I definitely enjoyed it because we still came out with the win, and because he died a lot in lane. But I from just that experience, I expect him to have some definitely tough matchups in top lane, which I have seen a decent amount of focus there. So we'll see how the matchups emerge, I guess, from his lane trading.
Like if you don't actually need to land the stun in the W, it's like it's not that bad. You can kind of just just point blank W and get the 2 hits, because like every time you use a spell on them, you get like the extra hit or whatever. But you have to, your W is like a long channel if you want the stun, and it's like you have to channel it for 2 seconds to get the maximum duration stun, which is like 1.5 or 1.2 second stun, somewhere like that. And then it's like a line shot, right? So it's very telegraphed if you actually feel like you need the stun. But the Q poke, like you can Q poke over the minions and stuff pretty effectively. I'm sure there's going to be some tough matchups. It does seem interesting. I'm also really curious to see if it comes into pro play, how people are going to actually manage like which shades they pick up and which they don't. Because when you turn into people, you become them fully. You don't have their ultimate, but you have their items and stuff. So it's like, if you pick over someone if you get a shutdown on someone who's 10-0, you're the 10-0 person with the 10-0 items, right? So I think that is really interesting. And it also makes it less appealing to take over the person that you've been slamming all game, because if someone's way behind, it's like, sweet, you killed them and you get a couple Doran's blades.
Leave that little shit soul on the ground. I'm not touching that.
Exactly.
you can keep your soul.
So I think we'll see some insane highlights with them for sure. Hope it comes in pro play.
On a non-gameplay level, because I feel like we always talk about gameplay. I'm kind of sad. Well, yeah, as the podcast would. I'm kind of just sad about how he looks. I mean, like, since season 2, when Blade the Rune King first came out, like all the lore and all this stuff. Who's the Rune King? Who's this guy in the the Shadow Isles and the harrowing and doing all this awful stuff? And then he's just an anime F-boy,
He's very whiny.
He's like, my love. I'm like, I don't know what I thought, Like, I assumed Mordekaiser-esque look, but, I can't help but be disappointed how this dude looks. And then, like, the tooltips are like, poof. Raz has a great meme about, like, Viego staring off into the distance in the tooltip and stuff. I don't know. All that stuff just kind of made me like, man, this is really the guy I've been waiting for like 8 years. This is him.
I get that, but also I feel like I saw so many people popping off about how great he looked when the videos came out. People were loving it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like anime.
Viego's hot as hell.
People like anime.
So many thirsty people on the Twitter timeline, just like, damn, Viego. So,
I mean, it's. I'll be honest. My mini tirade. This has been happening for so long with so many champs. Someone replied to me like the number of shirtless champs and stuff like. I don't care about that stuff, but I care about
they got the 6-pack. They're trying to show it off.
I don't care. Have a 6-pack.
They worked hard for it.
That's great. That's
exactly what I put all this work into, Mark. If you're not gonna
that part doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
What bothers me is that like
good body shaming.
It doesn't match like the backstory. Like Set being a mob boss aesthetic kind of thing, who's like grimy kind of guy. You're thinking like he's gonna be messed up looking, a skew nose, maybe he's ripping cigars or something, like a mob boss shit. And he's just it's anime F-boy.
He's just a super sick fighter. No one ever got to hit him.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Those kinds of things I'm just like, another
on
one?
to the semifinals. Oh no, you got something, Kobe?
No, I was just gonna say that you need to have variety though.
That's what I say. It's another anime guy.
But to your point though, Mark, like we have Mordekaiser, and I think you should just you like Mordekaiser, you should just play Mordekaiser. Like I agree, Mordekaiser is more badass by 100-fold probably than Viego in his story, but we have a Mordekaiser, so. Now you get the anime.
Yeah, Shadow Isles was the one place that didn't have anime F-boy. So you're like, you know what? Death Realm with haunted stuff. Make an anime character there. We don't have one yet.
Well, there you go. All right, 100 Thieves versus C9 semifinals coming to a screen near you very soon. We have 100 Thieves versus C9. We have EG versus TL. Those are the semifinal matchups for Lock In. I am actually really, really excited for this. Friday will be 100 Thieves versus C9. Saturday will be EG versus TL. And Sunday will be the finals. So Lock In is coming to a conclusion next weekend. You guys want to start with 100 Thieves versus C9?
Yes, sir. Guess what? Let's start in the top lane then.
All right.
Oh no. Oh no.
Maniacal laugh.
All right, Fudge. Let's see it because everybody's hyped for this matchup. Bottom lanes matching up again. We're gonna get to see one of the matchups between top 3 bottom lanes going at each other hard. All right, DeMonte, North American Hope, superstar NA mid laner versus big all-time import Perks, $5 million throwdown. Okay, now let's get to the top side. Fudge, you've been talking smack. He got way more humble, by the way, after the start of the lock-in tournament, and he was talking about, hey, I get it. I know I'm not playing well right now. Stop telling me. I'm not going to do any trash talk for right now until
I'm sure his mentions weren't kind.
Yeah. But I really I think that he still has a good head about him, and he's he's not like completely depressed or anything after this. He looks like, all right, he's taking it as motivation. He's like, I'm gonna play better. I'm gonna improve. So everybody's going to be watching this top side because obviously he put himself out there in the spotlight coming in talking trash, and now he's going against Someday, who is a beast, has always been a beast, and is working with the core from Golden Guardians. Probably them and Team Liquid, the most well coordinated 2 teams in the entire league right now, with the best well played strategy and best well laid plans coming into these games. So I think it's going to be really difficult for Fudge specifically. I'm still super hyped for the matchup overall. Obviously, Cloud9 is coming in with a bunch of star power and just having taking down TSM with some very aggressive strategies. I want to see if they have more looks besides like heavy dive and always just looking for all these flanks, because 100 Thieves are obviously going to have that at the top of the prep list, always warding flanks, always marking possible flankers. So it's
Alistar priority through the roof.
Yeah.
I think the top lane one's obviously going to be fun to watch, but I'm actually more interested in mid lane because DeMonte right now, I believe, is the highest KDA in Lock In Tournament, especially after some of the games. It was between him and Core JJ. They were both above 10, and I think Core JJ dropped below it with that Rel game. But it's super different style than Perks right now. I think DeMonte is working the best of any mid laner in the league right now with his whole team. Like I know it's a lot of TF, I know it's a lot of Galio, so it's kind of easy mode of doing it, but he's still doing better than the other TFs in the league. Like he has right now the best TF in terms of getting on the map and impacting plays. He's been bot side both those games, I think at like level 4 with 4-man dives. Sometimes it's with TP, sometimes with his ult. Like he's so good about playing around his bot lane. He works so well with closer. Perks right now, while not playing bad, is not working on that level with his team quite yet, even when he does take the Galio himself. So like this to me is like native NA guy playing selfless style all over the map, going up against like huge signing EU import, like more likely to play the Yone, more likely to play some of these more lane centric mid laners. And I'm really excited to see how that plays out, because I feel like on a narrative level and a gameplay level, it's such a big deal.
So here's my hot take right now for the mid lane. Perks is looking like an $11 million Goldenglue. Like he is looking, and that's not blasting Goldenglue. That's like, all right, Goldenglue, for your career, you were a solid, middle-ish of the pack mid laner in the LCS. I think if you turned off the nameplates for these games and watched all these Perks games, there's no way you would think that was Perks. Based on expectation versus reality, that is not to say I do not believe Perks will become, that dominant mid laner that we know he is in North America. But we have had 7 games of Perks in NA. I am thoroughly underwhelmed through those 7 games.
He's been whelmed.
I'm
Yeah,
underwhelmed.
I mean, I agree. And I thought that I was going to have the hot take of like, I'm going to go with 100 Thieves. I actually think DeMonte right now is playing better. And I am waiting for when the switch is going to flip though. Because like you're saying, you're like, all right, you know, I still think that Perks is going to, you know, pop off at some time in the future. And you're kind of wondering when that is going to be, because it has not been in Lock-In Tournament
Skeleton meme waiting, I think it was Primal said.
Exactly. But with how well 100 Thieves are playing as a team right now, I really do think that this matchup, they are going to come in with several plans of how to deal with heavy dive and high priority on flanks from Cloud9. And that's why I'm so excited that it is a best of series and we're moving to the best of 5s to get even more looks at these changes and iterations, you know, over the course of the series, because it does feel like Cloud9 are at an earlier stage of team construction, basically, and team identity, still trying to figure out definitely some of the kinks and working with the different players that they haven't had as much time with before. And so I would actually give, I'm actually going to predict 100 Thieves for this one.
Yeah, I honestly don't find that surprising based on what we've seen, because to me, it's like when I'm kind of looking down the line here, you know, I think Closer and Blabber are playing similarly well. I think that C9's bot lane is maybe playing a little bit better than what we've seen out of 100 Thieves, but I think both are incredibly strong. I think DeMonte is actually playing better than Perks right now, based on what we've seen in the lock-in, and I think top lane isn't close. I think Fudge is one of the lower end top laners in the league versus, you know, someday who's going to be at least in everyone's like top 3 right now. I do think that C9 has a tough road to the championship. I think if Perks, you know, starts to play like what people thought Perks was going to play like when he came over, then things start to be very different, right? Because top level Perks versus DeMonte, you wouldn't think is going to be an even matchup, right? You would think it would heavily favor towards Perks, but you know, with Perks playing as he is, and with the top laners that are left in the tournament, even if C9 get through here, you have Impact or Alfari left, right? All the top laners besides Fudge left in the tournament are absolute beasts. So I do think it is a tough road for C9. I will be interested to see what they can actually get done, but I think 100 Thieves has looked like a more cohesive team, has looked like they have better game plans. They took down TL, which with I think some really good play around bot lane. To be fair, that was with Armeo, not with Santorin, and you know, it was just one game. But I agree. I do think that 100 Thieves looks like the more complete team right now.
Yeah, I'm aligned, but I would
Damn
say,
it, man!
Why would you think that the team that topped their group wouldn't be favored? That it looks way better. They're obviously
everybody
and C9 looks shaky against TSM. I
think.
Because everybody riding the Cloud9 hype.
Everyone,
100 Thieves has a lot more hype right now.
We got dunked in an ice bath. Everyone who was hot on C9. I will say, for C9, the path to victory isn't that crazy in my head, though. Despite the fact that I do think it is, you know, probably going to be 100 Thieves 3-1. I think a lot of their strengths right now still line up in the same positions. I think you can talk about, you know, Someday being better, and maybe DeMonte being better, but Blabber and Closer are both playing really well. Sven and Vulcan is playing very well. So is Huhi and FBI. And so, like, if those two parts of C9 can outperform the 100 Thieves members, that probably slows down this engine of 100 Thieves a lot, because it's a lot of bot plays, it's a lot of 4-man plays, and if you just throw a wrench in those gears and suddenly your bot lane is pushed under turret, like, man, those 4-man plays, like, they're not happening under turret, they're happening in the middle of the lane, they're happening, you know, for a lot more disadvantageous positions. So if Vulcan has another monster series, I know it's mostly been on Alistar, but he's got a champ. He'll be okay. If he can have those kind of monster performances, if Blabber can like mess up some of Closer's jungle pathing and actually go for aggressive level 1 invades and these kinds of things,
What do you mean actually? Blabber does that like every single game.
I don't mean actually, but like convert them.
Blabber has been a freaking
right?
beast. Yeah.
I mean work out. If they shut Closer down, then the guy who's like running over the map with DeMonte is suddenly behind, and a lot of these plays can become a lot more difficult. So that's probably the most likely way, because I don't see mid and top going C9's way.
I think draft. Oh, go ahead.
go finish. I was just like, I'm glad that's swinging back this way, because with 300 Thieves predictions, I was like, wait a second, this is way too far on the other end, because Cloud9 have been having really big performances from Blabber and Vulcan.
Sven too.
Yep.
And Sven as well. Like this, the bottom lane has really been popping off. This could easily be, Cloud9 trying to win through bottom, trying to win through dragon stacking. Again, super hard dives. Obviously, everybody's main question mark is going to be top lane. And can 100 Thieves use something like that to earn them a lot of mid-game objectives? Like, you need to use someday, if you're 100 Thieves, an advantage up there to get that first Rift Herald and turn that into cash. I feel like that is just such a good early game, even if you have to give up, first dragon on bottom side to do it. I would say do that 100% in this matchup. With you have someday top side, you should definitely have closer, with a good matchup in a 2v2 with him, should be able to invest in getting that Rift Herald, because there's so much momentum you can build off first Rift Herald these days, even giving up first dragon.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really, really interesting. I know Mark mentioned a 3-1. I feel like it's closer than that. Like I was going to say, a 3-2 for 100 Thieves, and I do think that this is one of those games that could be decided by a draft, right? I think if C9 actually comes in with a really intelligent draft, I do feel that they have been more flexible as far as like the needed picks. I know they have been doing a lot of dive stuff, but I feel like there's so many dive champions in the meta. Whereas to me, I think 100 Thieves is so much better when they have Demonte on these roaming champions. I would be less likely to bet on 100 Thieves winning if like Galio and TF are never available, because I think he's so good at playing side lanes. And I know he's good at other champions. This is not a knock on him, but I just think that they play the map so well with that style. And, when you look towards how well C9's bot lane has been playing, I did say I think I give them the slight edge. And when you look at the 100 Thieves game where they actually beat TL, well, they got 2v2 killed, and then they kind of got bailed out a bit by some really good team play. They coordinated well and they snowballed that lead, but it was closer coming down on Olaf. It was Galio roams from Demonte, and it was about the 4-man dive and coordination. And they have gone for those 4-man dives a lot of times. Both the games that they played against Immortals, they set up that early 4-man dive, they stack the wave, they show up, they kill off your bot lane, and then they snowball from there. And I do think that is maybe easier to prepare for, because it feels like they go for more of these set plays. So if C9 comes into this and they're like, all right, we ban out these specific roam champions, we have our jungler hovering bot for this dive that's going to come, like these types of steps, then maybe the series can start to swing like heavily in their favor.
Yeah, I think one thing that in the early game that 100 Thieves have done that's been really impressive to me is they've been able to, if one of the lanes has a bad matchup, closer will go just to kind of unlock them from that matchup with like a little pressure gank towards that lane, clear out this wave so that then they can move that piece and they get to roam it. So then you can block basically the opponent weak side play while you make a strong side play, and try and not give up enough. And then they're quick to rotate back. And it has worked out that they've had the timing where they've had a lot of these plays where they get something without having to give something up. And that's pretty rare and kind of difficult to actually pull off. So super hype for all of these matchups that we're moving towards with the semifinals here.
This is to me like semifinals or a finals quality series that we're getting, for that we'd normally have to wait for spring playoffs, right? You'd normally have to wait through like halfway through the year, and we're getting it right off the bat. I think it's going to be incredibly exciting. Kobe, what was your prediction? You said you think 100 Thieves.
For 100 Thieves, I had 3-2 100 Thieves. Because I'm such like
you're doing your flip flop, you're going
I'm
C9.
Such a hipster. Whenever it's all three the same prediction, it makes me want to go the other way, but I'm not going to do it this time because it's kind of cheap, right? You're just like, oh, you're just flipping because it's against the grain. You're just trying to be a hipster. Like,
all
so
right,
I'm going to stick with it.
You heard it here first. Yeah. EG versus TL. That's the Saturday matchup. Another one that should be really, really good. A lot of people have TL as the best team right now. EG topped their group. They looked really, really, really good in the group stage. They did drop that one game to FlyQuest, but they did smack down Golden Guardians. They feel like they are looking like a very cohesive unit. It's Santorin versus Svenskeren. I think that is a pretty cool matchup because these guys, are meeting again and have been two of the best junglers around for quite some time.
Yeah, I think for me, the most exciting matchup has to be top lane. Just Impact versus Alphari, the guy that you got replaced by, old team, like this kind of stuff. And I also think it's just really interesting because they're probably the two best performing top laners right now. I know Someday's in that top 3 discussion, but it's probably between these two for me. And while you do have the Renekton pick for Impact, that's been really good for him. He has used it a lot, and I'm curious what else he has in the tank, especially if we get into these kind of bruiser versus bruiser, carry versus carry matchups, because that was the big rub on Impact was like, well, he doesn't really play carries, is like kind of how everyone felt. And so, I mean, he plays GP, but it's mostly weak side, and you don't really play through him. So it's a more nuanced conversation, really, but that is the general rub.
Yeah, I would say. You know what? I know what he's got else besides Renekton because I've seen him for years and years and years and years. Like he still can play the Ornn for the entire team. Gragas, we haven't seen Shen pop out at all, but I actually wouldn't even be surprised, even though it hasn't been played at all by. Let me check real quick if it's even played once this season.
Got banned against him
the entire
in week
world.
1, I think.
But yeah, these sorts of things that from Impact for him playing for so long are all still true. So it's not like this is some green fresh prospect that you're like, he's popping up. What else does he got?
To be fair, let me just give some of the numbers, right? Because there is always this discussion, and it's like people say Impact's not really a carry player, and then people are like, but he plays Jace and he plays this and he plays that, and it's like, well, yeah, he can play the champions, but is that his strength? Is that what he goes towards? When we look at last year, so look at all of last year, the games that were played, the 4 most played from Impact: Ornn, Mord, Shen, Set. Okay, then below that there is Aatrox, 3 games, 0-3. That is the most next played for Impact. Then he has 3 games on GP, 3 games on Kennen, right? So his 4 go-tos basically all I mean, you could call.
I wouldn't call Mord a tank.
Set is like a bruisery, whatever. Mord is like a he's a juggernaut, but more on the tanky side, right? On the other side, the 4 most played: Gangplank, Renekton, Aatrox, Camille. Then you have Kennen, Gnar, etc. You have a Kale game in there, a Quinn game in there, right? Like it's just a different focus, right? And this is not like to be a knock on Impact at all. He's an incredible player, but I do always find that this discussion kind of silly because I feel like people say, well, he's not a carry player. And then on the other side, people overreact on that too, I feel like.
Well, yeah, I think that's the problem that emerges with blanket statements because it's definitely champion specific with him, and can like you're both saying, play carry champions, in scenarios. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm saying that's why I think weak side is the best term for it, because when you play Mord, you generally don't play to him. You kind of just put him on an island, and that's a lot of impact is weak side play, whether it's GP, whether it's even Kennen's
Gnar games.
Yeah, even Kennen can be a weak side. I'm just going to harass you down and kind of just farm my lane out kind of thing. And that's why when I said what else do you have in your tank, is I'm not saying Impact it's a champion pool. I'm just saying are you going to keep trying to lean more towards the carries, or are you going to go towards the Ornns and the Gragas and whatever other tanks you feel strong in the meta right now? Because Alphari is probably going to keep playing carries. And so that's why it's so interesting to me. Same way the Demonte Perks conversation was the most interesting one in the previous matchup. For me, I want to see, does Impact try and go more skill check into Alphari? And I would love to see that. It's a preseason tournament, basically, go for it. If you want to make a statement, I am so down to see Impact go Jax
counter pick Camille, something like that.
He never does it.
There's no chance.
I know you would also be if you saw Impact on Aurelia, you would have a heart attack. Right?
I would love it. Sign me up, because it's the perfect time to do it.
Here's what I really think is going to happen, though, is that Renekton will get banned or taken away, and Impact is going to play Ornn and Gragas.
Boo.
And maybe Malphite.
I mean,
and
that's
stuff.
what has happened already. Like that's what happened already in the Lock In tournament when it was banned. Literally those exact two champions.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But Alfari has brought something different into TL, and I think it's disingenuous to suggest otherwise, right? And like his Camille play, his side lane play, is more split push focused, and it brings a different dimension to the team. And I think that it has brought something that is unique to the team and valuable to the team. And he's also just been playing incredibly individually. Impact I think is amazing, and Impact can be just as valuable of a top laner, but he doesn't have the same flexibility. I think the question to me is going to become like, if it is tank versus tank, well, is Impact just a better tank player? Then it's different strengths and weaknesses. It's not one just being better than the other. So it will be really interesting up in the top lane.
Small buff to Impact. Aegis, Sunfire Aegis got the passive of the tenacity thrown on there instead of the ability haste, which I would consider a buff.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. Biggest question for me though for this matchup is going to be the bottom lane.
Yeah,
because everybody's been on definitely hype train now, and everyone's like, so underrated. Now he's going against Tactical and Core JJ. Guess what? Nobody has been underrated versus Tactical and Core JJ. They've been aptly rated by being below Tactical and Core JJ. You know, like these guys have actually 5 out of 6 games double killed their bottom lane opponents. And then if you start to have global pressure coming in as well, like this is going to be a big point for the entire series that we're going to have working up here. As great as the story is, Impact versus former team, can you perform versus guy who replaced you? Bottom lane has been so exciting for Team Liquid, and I love seeing them play aggressive gameplay. When they signed Alfari, it was exciting because like talking about more options to play a lot of these types of strategies, and people are kind of sick of seeing especially with Worlds so recent in everybody's mind, like the beginning of the format where they're playing the slower and playing scaling and stuff like that. Guess what? Tactical and Core JJ didn't get the memo. They're just going for kills in lane every single game. It's not going to be, scale up or anything like that for Team Liquid. So I'm hyped.
I'm really excited. I think definitely has been playing well, and like when we talked about on the analyst desk, it was through the lens of like who would be like a good value pick for fantasy, right? But there's a difference between that and playing against the best bot lane probably right now, or at least I think the best player, which is Core JJ. He's been absolutely incredible. I think definitely has been good, but definitely has been what I kind of call the like cleanup marksman. It's like you're winning the fights, but he's kind of standing pretty far back, and he's doing good DPS.
He won some exciting 1v1s. I want to give him that too.
That was that one, right? I think it was against Perks.
He had a bunch versus Perks. He's had quite a few. I think he's making good use of what's strong in the meta right now, and the Kaisa. I know for a fact he plays a lot of Samira in Flex Q. So maybe we'll get to see some of that. Maybe they actually try and turn it around on Tactical and Core JJ. That would be super hype.
They would. So I think he's been solid, but I do think that their bot lane is a tier below Team Liquid's, and I think that's why most people will favor Team Liquid here. The question is just like, can the team play be better for EG? Because I have been pretty impressed by how well the soul lanes have been working together with EG, how well they've actually been working with Svenskeren. Even the Rise game, which I was pretty hesitant when I saw Rise coming out because like no one is playing him. He's considered pretty trash in solo queue. Jizuke busts out the Rise, and I'm like, oh God, you just have nothing left. But he was roaming everywhere around the map. He was coordinating well with Impact. Right from the word go and lock in, they have been really good at actually coordinating and finding multi-prong attacks, flanking from different sides, pinching off. I think it was when they were playing against, I want to say Saligo, there was like a Zoe game where like every single fight, you just see Jizuke and Impact coming from behind and catching him from different angles, and one chases him to the other and they kill him off. And so I think it has to be more about that sort of stuff than just like individual pound for pound talent, because Team Liquid has like outspent everyone and bought the best players. And, like on paper, it's hard to ever really predict people above TL as a result.
Yeah, I think the Jizuke matchup is probably the X factor for me in the series. I think Jensen's a better player overall, but there'll be games where Jizuke's peaks are going to be higher, and he'll be the most important player in the game sometimes. And so if he has those kinds of games in the series, you can actually take the series down. And I think he has, in some sense, coordinated better with his team in making plays, whereas Jensen's just been like a stud on Orianna. So the only other thing to mention, I think, is Santorin. His first weekend starting was really good this last weekend, and I think you can see the upgrade it was over Armeo, and even looking back to last year a little bit, Broxa, his Nidalee games, his Talia games, his coordination with Core JJ about getting off those Leona Talia combos and stuff. Like, I just saw a great level of coordination that we all know Santorin for, about how good he is about playing around his lanes and while being efficient in the jungle. Like, all that still held true. So I think TL is a favorite in this, but I think there's some decent upset potential here.
Yeah, I have really liked Jizuke's play, and that is one of the things that I was unsure about after last year, but he has been consistently extremely good, and the part that surprised me the most was in a lot of the times when you need to be more cautious, and he hasn't given up. A lot of these deaths where even when I talk to players just in passing randomly, like after a weekend or something, they're like, yeah, Jizuke is really good, but like sometimes if you need a buddy, like you need a friend that's going to give you a kill in game, like he's your friend, he's your buddy, go fight Jizuke. But we haven't seen that. Like he's broken ties, no more friends.
the one game still that's in my head from that mid lane where he's just like auto attacking the
that's your buddy right there.
But that was a buddy move right there, But besides that, yeah, he's been great. I was honestly really disappointed even in summer where they moved away from Jizuke. I didn't really think it made sense, because I did think that even though he had a lot more of those rough games in spring, he also had so many 1v9 style games. And if Jizuke can ever get to the point, and it feels like he's there right now, I don't know if it's just too small of a sample size of game, but if he can get to the point where he's consistently having that high level of performance without those kind of throwaway deaths, he's going to be one of the very best mid laners in the league, for sure.
All right, Honda MVP time. Let's get to it.
Did we say game numbers?
Oh,
backing out of game numbers.
I'm gonna go 3-1 TL.
3-0.
Yeah, 3-0.
Okay.
Honda MVP, like we were saying. Nice little prediction segment right there. After only 2 weeks of play, who is your dark horse candidate for MVP? Remember, this is dark horse. No Core JJs sneaking through.
Jizuke.
That's a good one. You already gave your argument previously, so
yeah.
Just submit the name now.
if he can keep up this level of play, if EG does really well, like imagine a world in which EG is a top 2 team. Jizuke could win MVP.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Nuts a butsa. Mine is Vulcan. I think this is a real dark horse because, one, you have to like stand out over Perks and Blabber. And 2, you have to stand out over Core JJ, which is like you kind of need him to have a bad split, like bad by Core JJ standards, and keep up the level that we've seen in play-ins for Vulcan, where he's like making game-winning Alistar plays and stuff.
30 straight games Alistar. He's the MVP.
Yeah, there you go. That's how it happens. But yeah, that would be my darkest of dark horses.
This is actually
it's not that
so
dark,
funny.
Mark.
Why? How is he gonna get it?
He's at least like under the moonlight, Everyone's talking about Vulcan.
He's
he got
midnight,
player of the
cloudy
week.
night.
No, it's not that dark, Mark. There's like friggin' big old spotlights.
He's blindfolded.
Everybody sees him, Mark.
It's actually so funny because I was also gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna go out there and put a support on this list, and that's really rough because Core JJ. And I was gonna put Huhi though.
Okay,
I was gonna go deeper than Mark.
Yeah.
Because
you're in the shadows.
I think because Huhi has been amazing, and I really think he deserves so much of what Mark. Go ahead.
I was saying, how is that a darker horse?
It's what are you talking about?
C9 has 2 MVPs.
C9 gets way more hype, and he just won Player of the Week. It's not a dark horse.
But there's 2
Vulcan was
MVPs
in MVP
on
discussions last time.
There's no MVPs on.
Just get over it, Mark.
You just won an award, Mark. You just won an award. Meanwhile, my boy Huhi over here getting snubbed with the awards recently. I think he deserves some goddamn
Where's
awards.
his player of the
okay?
week?
Go
Give
vote
us
for
Ben
him then.
MVP.
Who'd you guys vote for player of the week? Was it Huhi?
I can't
No.
remember.
Yeah, I don't
remember.
I don't want to hear it.
I don't
played the
remember, but it
fifth.
wasn't. But I'm voting for him now in my goddamn Honda MVP section.
When it doesn't
okay,
matter.
Mark?
Yeah.
Let's see who else though, because we're going pretty deep on supports here.
Impacto.
Honestly, yeah, Impact is a good one. Alfari is a good one.
I think there's a couple from
for
100
top
Thieves.
lane.
Maybe like if someday has a pop off split, and they get like first, maybe closer.
DeMonte,
That would
highest
be a world.
That's a
KDA
very
player
dark
in the
horse.
goddamn league. Okay.
All right. Anchor questions. This one is our first anchor question in a while. Remember, you guys keep sending your anchor questions. Anchor.fm, search the dive, LOL. This one comes from Kyle Fleming, aka Washii.
Hey guys, Washii here. With Cloud9 having a lot more success on control majors and more supportive mid lane picks like Galio and TF, do you think he may end up slotting into a similar role as Niski had? I feel like Cloud9's bot lane is doing the carrying that Perks was expected to. I wondered your thoughts on what the Cloud9 team dynamic may end up being in the future, because it looks like a similar style as to how they won Spring last year in a lot of ways. Thanks.
Here's my take on it. They want to use Perks, how Perks want to play in Europe, but because they stumbled so quickly early on, they then reverted to how they played with Niski. And they were like, all right, you're Galio now. Perks actually went on Double Lift stream and they were just like randomly chatting about the games and stuff. And he's like, yeah, he was laughing about it. Like, yeah, I guess I'm actually a dog now for Blabber following him around with, Galio and that type of stuff. So I honestly see the playstyle evolving for Cloud9 to be much more dynamic. But for right now, it probably will be a lot of follow Blabber because they have a lot of faith in Blabber, as they should, and he's doing a good job leading the way right now. If you have Blabber and Vulcan calling a lot of these shots, a lot of these flanks, and you have them on playmaking stuff, I think that works really well.
I agree. It depends how far in the future you're looking with this question. If it's next week, probably more of the Niski style. If it's future as in end of spring split, it's probably a lot more of Perks' style.
All right, we got a Twitter question here. This one comes from Charles Thompson, esports weapon. With teams indexing really heavily into dive and engage comps, do you think that Kite and Disengage comps like TSM played in summer 2020 are a viable or natural progression to the current meta?
I took the last one first, Mark, so I was
Okay.
going to let you go, but if you're not going to go, I'll go.
I'll hop in. I think that we are already seeing some of that. We have seen some of that in Lock-In. I think that with the popularity of enchanters that we're seeing, in LEC and whatnot, when you're having multiple enchanter style compositions, those generally are disengage and poke and pull back. There's lots of Nidalee. Zoe's in the meta. If you're getting like Ivern and Lulu and this type of stuff, it is generally more about playing around your marksman and kiting back. So I do think that we're going to see some of that for sure.
I think it's a little limited by 80 carry champs right now. Like, not many of the super high DPS auto attackers are strong. Even Kite is more. Aphelios is basically the only one. But otherwise, Jhin.
Zaya's good. I think Zaya is good right now and could be used in these. Go ahead though, Mark.
No, that's fine. I don't care. I mean, like, it's a lot of ability stuff. Even Kaisa, her auto attacks can do a lot. Like, she presses a lot of buttons, and same with a lot of these champs.
Yeah. I was gonna say I think that the tools are definitely there to the point, and I was going to specifically list. Kaisa can make her way into it. We saw a Sivir already. Aphelios is very good anti-dive if you have the right guns, obviously. So I think the pieces are definitely there. What really is usually make or break for those types of compositions versus heavy dive and flank, to me, is always, is there a good zoning tool for you? Galio, very strong right now. I think teams should be investing in Swain, also a really good pivot point for your composition. Very hard to dive into, huge zone control for these teams, because when you have, an Aphelios plus a Lulu or something like that, all that you then need for the rest of your comps, try and find some way to make it difficult, peel off this dive just a little bit, so that the Aphelios has time to set up, has time to avoid the initial engage or the initial flank. Good vision is obviously, goes along with this, but just looking at the comps, I think the tools are definitely there. Right now, we've already seen that it is kind of difficult because the dive is very straightforward. They're looking for flanks, they're looking for the carry, and they're just going all in. And some of the tools that have been used so far, like Gragas Disengage, is a little bit more difficult to use. Skill shot based, the angles can get tricky if you don't have timing on it. The lockdown part, the peel part of the comp is going to be where it hinges on.
I like the Swain call a lot. Swain is actually a ridiculously high win rate in mid lane right now, though it is a really low pick rate, but it's 57% win rate in mid lane right now, which is just absolutely absurd. And if you're playing like Hecarim, like in the times when I've played Hecarim and I'm playing into like Swain Lulu,
as soon as you go in, you're like, I gotta get out now. Huh? Well, look at the time.
Yeah, it's just not a lot going on for you. So big agree. I think that would be cool to see some Swain. Thank you for the question, Charles. On to the next one. We got this one from Adam Strasser from Capsicin. Says, when teams are guaranteed to be out of playoffs, why don't we see teams play non-meta champs they like to play? Zed mid, Trin top, etc. Do you think we'll see this now that it is one long season and there'll be a longer period of time of being locked out of playoffs?
No. The reason people don't do this is because they're not playing to have fun. They're playing usually for pretty specific reasons to win. And I know you're saying they're locked out, but when you lose, people still make fun of you, even if you're having fun. People actually make fun of you even more because it's like, why aren't you trying to improve? Why aren't you working on these things that are important to being a pro player? I think there's no reason to do it other than I enjoy it. Like, this player enjoys playing that champ, when there's a bunch of reasons not to do it. And that's why I don't think even when you get longer lockout periods, people are going to do it. And I think it's the right decision. Like, I like when people try their pocket pick. I'm not saying I'm against pocket picks when they make sense, but if it's like, hey, I'm just going to play Trin top now, no, please don't do that on the LCS stage. I don't think that benefits anyone in the entire league, the people you're playing against, your teammates, you, the fans, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the fans will like it for a little bit, but if that's what your game's turned into, get me out.
I think you may get thrown because like the Trin Demir example in the question is like really far left field. I do think there's a difficulty because if you're guaranteed that you're out in playoffs, you want to practice stuff that you might actually use. Like Tryndamere may be a little bit too far, but something like the Swain that you want to use and get some testing on might be an option. But then there's also always the other side of it where you're like, if I test it on stage, then everyone's going to see it. And since this is me getting eliminated in playoffs and I don't play again until the beginning of spring, then there's going to be a long time for everyone else to both use it and play against it.
And the meta changes.
You won't get value out of it, even though you're like, I got some really good testing for this, but everybody saw your testing too. It's kind of hard.
To me, one of the biggest things also is just that when your race for playoffs ends, your race to keep your job usually begins, right? Like these players on bad teams that are being locked out of playoffs, especially if you're saying someone's locked out of playoffs really early, probably means your team didn't do very well this year. Your team stinks, right? And a lot of those players get replaced. You start fighting for your job. And if you're fighting for your job, you're not going to be messing around and picking something that just for funsies, because you want to be on the team next year, right? There, especially in this new era where we're seeing way more attention being paid to amateur, to academy, to collegiate even. There are going to be more people coming up. And if it feels like you don't care or you're doing really bad, you're not going to have a job in the next year. So next one here comes from Seb Salas, I believe it is. Panda Spike says, a very serious question. What is the best all Yordle comp?
Poppy, Rumble, Tristana,
Lulu,
Viego.
Okay, so we got Poppy top,
that's a pretty
Rumble,
good
jungle. You're saying?
I was gonna do Poppy jungle. I think Poppy jungle is actually quite good right
Rumble
now.
You top, can Tristana, Lulu bot. And Vagar
Oh.
mid.
Unless
What
you
other
even
Yordles
you
are
got
there?
more Yordles. We excluded Gnar, and
I don't know all the Yordles. Let's see.
There's
I know we
Teemo
excluded
Legends.
Gnar.
Teemo, yeah.
We basically listed as many as we could think of quickly, and it actually made a comp.
Okay, there's Corki. Corki could be mid. What else we got?
I'm feeling I'd rather have
We
a
got
Vagar than a
Fizz,
Corki right
we got
now.
Kled, we got Kennen, Poppy, Rumble, Vagar, Teemo, Ziggs. So we actually got most of them. The only thing you would maybe
Yeah.
change is like the top lane if you want Kennen instead. That's maybe a little bit more meta than Rumble right now.
What is the
Ziggs
best-
might be decent too.
What is
Yeah.
the best all Yordle comp? A dead comp. They're when they're all dead. That's the
What the hell?
best.
Is this like
You know, like cats are basically just like real life Yordles, right? And you have like multiple cats. They're just like these fuzzy creatures. So you see
It
that the Poppy cinematic, was it like a season opening or whatever? Poppy's all furry like your cat, Mark. Think
Dude,
about what you've just done.
Those things are not cute. They're like the uncanny valley kind of thing where it's like just trying so hard to be cute, but then when you try and make it look realistic, it's just like, ugh, get it away. You know, like
Yeah, I think the Poros have like a monopoly on the cute furry.
yeah, Poros are cute.
Yeah.
Yordles
Poros are
are demonic.
Yordles are demonic. All right, well, there you have it. That's all for us for this week. Thanks again to Honda for making this episode and every other episode possible. We appreciate you. And guys, remember, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you want to review us on Apple Podcasts, that's super cool. If you have a funny review, maybe we'll read it. Who knows? Anchor.fm, you can submit your questions there as well as on Twitter. Just search The Dive for Anchor.fm. Hashtag The Dive LOL on Twitter. Tag us if you want those questions sent to us. And especially sub to the new LCS YouTube channel.
Do
It is
it.
youtube.com/LCS. That's where all the great content you love is being uploaded. The Dive, this or that, all kinds of other cool stuff is going to be on there too. And send us, you already did that. I already read that part. All right, we'll see you next week to talk about the big best of fives that are going to be happening this coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Don't miss it. We'll be there.